I'm Zane. I've been playing pickleball for like 11 years at this point. If I'm only able to do one drill, I have 1 minute to warm up, I'm doing quick hands every time.
Today I have the opportunity to meet Zane Navratil. Hopefully I said that right. If you guys don't know who he is a pro pickleballer and also a YouTuber. And my friend told me that he is hosting a clinic at Pickle Kingdom, which got me very excited because I'm a huge fan and I've watched many of his videos. This clinic is about an hour and a half long with 12 people, and not too sure exactly what to expect because the description on the event page was kind of vague, but I assume that since there are going to be a lot of people, 12 people, we're just going to be learning his techniques and then we'll be running a lot of his drills. Yeah, this event costed me $130, which is definitely on the expensive end. Just to give you guys context, the first clinic that I did at Pickleland costed me $50 for 1 hour with 2 others. And then my previous video, the one-on-one lesson, costed me $100 for 1 hour. So yeah, $130 for an hour and a half with 12 people, but with an actual professional pickleballer. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna take you guys along with me and you guys can decide for yourself if it's worth the price. But I am very stoked to just meet him in person and just to learn from an actual pro. Let's go learn.
I'm Zane. I've been playing pickleball for like 11 years at this point. I've been playing pro since 2020. So I appreciate you guys coming. Yeah, gonna share a thing or two. I'm so stoked that we've got this all recorded too. Normally I send out videos of all the different drills that we do as well. So yeah, really today you just have to try and absorb as much as you can, and luckily we can go reference it all afterwards. So yeah, we'll go through a bunch of different stuff. Important thing, none of this is going to be implemented into your game today. Like, that's not the best use of our time. I want you guys to walk away with a feel and an understanding for your basically your homework. We're gonna get you started on your homework of stuff to work on for weeks and months to come. So if something doesn't go well during this, that's fine. It's not supposed to. Like, this is supposed to teach you your next steps to go work on your own. That's how we get the most value out of our hour and a half today. All right, real quick, we'll do this in 10 minutes. We're gonna go through the way that I warm up and the way that competitive and tournament players warm up. While we do this, I'm not gonna give you guys any technique advice whatsoever. We're just gonna make sure that you're doing the steps of this warm up properly. Very first step is just gonna be dinking straight ahead. Good looking paddle.
I got it from Mushu. He was just
oh, nice.
The other day, right?
Nice. Yeah.
Done this with Heidi. Oops, sorry.
All right, guys, pause here. My side, we're gonna start to slowly work our way back. So you guys, you're staying up at that kitchen line. My side, we're gonna start to slowly work our way back through that transition zone. All drops here, all drops. Tough mat. All right, baseliners, drop or drive. Drop or drive, make your choice. Just whatever choice you make, that was the wrong one.
Do the opposite.
Nice, good rip, Chris. Got some, caught that one weird, but those other drives are spinny, dude. Those are nice. Start to work your way back forward. Work your way back in. Next step of this warm-up is we're gonna volley to one another. We're gonna aim right at each other's chest. We're gonna start off super slow, like 10% of max pace. And then every time we hit a ball, we'll pick up the pace maybe like 5%. If you miss, then we'll go back down to starting out really slow. let's build a little bit of rhythm here with these hands battles. So really, really slow to begin with, and then we'll pick it up. All right, good stuff, boys. Nice, nice. All right, guys, pause. All right, last step of this warm-up. All 4 players are gonna be back at the baseline, all right? So, what we're gonna do is serve, return, third shot, okay? So, Kyle, once I hit this third shot, just catch the ball, all right? Serve, return, and third shot. He's gonna catch, oh, if I didn't have 7 mics on me, I'd be cussing right now. All right, we'll try it again. Serve, return, third shot over the net. He catches it. Boom, now he serves it back. Serve, return, third. There we go. All right, that's the last step of this warm-up. So anyway, that's my warm-up. That's the warm-up that most tournament players are doing. You can tailor it to what exactly you need. We took about 10 minutes to do that. That's probably about the same amount of time that I will warm up if I'm just doing rec play. But honestly, like, even if you don't have 10 minutes to do this, you got to get it done. You have to do this sequence. Like, let's say it's only 3 minutes and you do it, but like this gets everything covered. If there is some circumstance, or if you're like, look, Zane, I'm really just not going to warm up, promise me one thing. If you're going to warm up one thing in this entire sequence, what do you think my choice is? Thirds, fast hands, dinks, volleys. All right, that's about it, right? If I'm only able to do one drill, I have 1 minute to warm up, I'm doing quick hands every time. If I set my eye to training the quick exchanges, it seems like I've got all the time in the world to then go hit dinks, right? So if there's only one thing that I can do in a warm up, it's going to be that quick hands drill. So it is probably the drill that people do the least in the warm up. It's also like absolutely the most important, more important than your dinking, more important than your third shots. If you have good fast hands, you can bail yourself out of everything. If you are the world's best dinker, but you don't have hands, well, I'm not going to dink with you. I'm just going to speed everything up at you, right? Your hands make people respect every other element of your game, basically. Like it covers up for every other element of your game. One of the main things that I see is, see, Matt, would you mind hitting with me for a sec? One of the main things that I see here is getting just a little bit overextended in some of these fast hands exchanges. So one of the big keys is making sure that we are following through right back to ready position, not getting here and then waiting on our backhand. I did see a lot of what I call like waiting on the backhand in these quick exchanges. So we'll start off very slow again, but just with an emphasis of making sure that we follow through right back to center here. All right, one more here. As compact as you can make, let's see how compact we can make this too, right? We can get a good chunk of pop on this ball with a very limited motion. Less is more here, right? Less is more. We don't need big swings. If we get it down at the feet, that's great too. We're not really aiming to get it down at the feet right now in this drill, but let's say compact, make sure that we're not, a good like point of reference here is to make sure in a quick hands exchange that our paddle is not crossing to the opposite side of our body. If it's crossed to the opposite side of our body, that generally means we're overextended, and at your level, that ball's coming back, and unless it's right here, you're in trouble. So on the backhand side, I want to make sure I'm not crossing over to the right side of my body. On the forehand side, I want to make sure that I'm not crossing over to the opposite side. I'd say it's loose. I did this demo in the last clinic as well, but I'll show you my grip pressure pretty much all the time. So if you hold your paddle out straight ahead of you, hold the grip so loose that it starts to fall down in your hand. Now slowly start to tighten your hand up until the paddle head starts to come up, and then continue to tighten until your forearm muscles start to activate. So for me, my grip is pretty much always tight enough to make the paddle naturally come up in my hand, but not tight enough to make the forearm muscles activate. So if that's a 1 out of 10 for you or a 5 out of 10, I don't know, but that's what I'm at for pretty much every shot. I like that idea of like keeping the elbows in on this, as if you're pinning a ball in here. There are certainly times where that's not going to be completely accurate, but it's a good, I think a good mental state to be in of like, we're keeping the elbows in and compact here. Yeah, so I worry about this as well, right? Like when we're just aiming at one spot the entire time, you could ingrain bad habits. What I'm trying to do when I'm working on this with a partner is, let's hit a couple. I'll switch it up a little bit. I'm gonna go a couple over to his forehand, at maybe his hip over there. I'm not really gonna aim to hit, I'm gonna naturally hit down on it sometimes by accident, but I'll switch it up. I'll go forehand, backhand. I'll just pick a target for any shot. I think if you get good at hitting a target, you can change that target. Yeah, I would guess you're just in a backhand committed ready position, and so yeah, we're gonna hit a backhand one way or another. So I think if our ready position is like this, so I think for you maybe thinking about getting the corner of the paddle pointed towards your opponent here, the side here could be a good thought to have in this quick exchange. One of the very first things I do if I step on the court with somebody that I don't know, the very first thing I do, I'm looking at their ready position. If I see them ready like this, I'm going forehand all day long. If I see them ready low, I'm going off-speed attacks up high. Basically, I'm going to look at where their ready position is, and I'm going to try and exploit where it's not. I gotcha. Chris, one quick note for you. Push against my paddle. Push against my paddle. All right, now push against my paddle. Which one had more resistance? Second one, right? Especially on the backhand side. What we want to do is, I want you to try and just pull the hand slightly back towards you. In this position, it's just going to have a little bit more resistance behind the paddle. More resistance behind the paddle means that you're going to be able to send it back a little bit quicker. So,
bend my wrist down
and snap it through,
yeah.
which is if you have time to snap it, perfect. But if I'm already set up here, right? If I don't have time to snap it, I'm in a good position. If I do, I can always sort of switch it over. So we want to be prepared to not be able to snap. And if we have time, all right, sure, we can go do it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna show you guys what I'm seeing from you guys. Here's what I'm seeing from you guys for the most part. We probably all know J.W. Johnson, right? That guy plays in freaking sweatpants, right? It looks like he's just standing there. Kind of pisses me off if I'm being honest, right? But it looks like he's just standing there, but he's got such quick hands. We really don't have too much time to do any of this other stuff. And in fact, the quieter we are with the rest of our body, the better our eyes are actually going to track the ball, and our hand-eye coordination is going to be better. One of the biggest keys for hand-eye coordination is being stable in your head. If our head is moving, our coordination is substantially worse. This is all about hand-eye coordination and picking up the ball quickly. So what I want to try and do here is I want you guys to slow it down again. Let's go a little bit off speed and focus on legitimately only moving the arm. Our head's not moving, our feet are completely planted. This is an exaggeration. Of course, we do have to move our feet in a real game, right? We're gonna have to get to the ball, but to prove a point and to like get the feel for this, try to be completely stationary with every part of the body other than the arm. This will actually play really well with a bunch of us who wanted to work on like more offensive dinking, more offense, speed ups, all that stuff. So, Greg, would you mind dinking with me for a sec? Why do we stand up at the kitchen? I stand at the kitchen line because I have to. If it didn't exist, I would stand right here, right? Legitimately, I would stand right here because I can get the ball at a higher point. I can generate angles, take angles away from my opponent, take time away from my opponent, all that stuff. They actually started out playing pickleball on this court in Bainbridge Island. It was a badminton court, and they had a guy that was about Matt's height who was just crashing in on top of the net. He could cover the entire thing, and they're like, this sport we invented kind of sucks. Like, that guy keeps just crashing into the net. Matt, you got to stay. It was on a badminton court, so it was 6.5 feet back, and they changed it. So pickleball court is the exact same dimensions as a badminton court, but this line, the service line in a badminton court is 6 inches closer. So maybe they were on like an out of spec badminton court, I don't know. But all of the advantages, we stand at the kitchen line to try and take the ball out of the air. If I want to let the ball bounce, I wouldn't stand here, right? I'd stand at the baseline. So short, tall, whatever, our objective is to try and take this ball out of the air so long as we can stay in balance. And so we'll do a drill that I call protect the line to show us what that sort of range is. So to simplify and answer the question before we do the drill, I'd say we want to take anything out of the air so long as we're in balance. Possible exception of if somebody's hitting a really floating drive from back there, and I might be able to reach it out of the air here or step back and hit it here. So there is a time where we don't want to take it out of the air. From the kitchen line, we pretty much want to take it out of the air if we can, if that makes sense. On Mike's side, if a ball bounces in the dark blue, it's a shot that I probably should have cut off out of the air. I let it go into the dark blue, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to dink. This is a dinking only game. It's a dinking only game, and if I let the ball bounce in the dark blue, or I got it to bounce in the dark blue on Greg, I win that point. Dinking only, but we got to protect our line. Oh,
2-0.
Let's go. You guys get the idea, right? All right, that is like one of my all-time favorite drills. And right now, we're probably overextending. We're probably erring on the side of taking too much out of the air. But that's good. Like, we've got to find our range. And so the more you do this drill, the more you'll figure out, like, okay, that is a ball I can take out of the air. All right, that is a ball that, like, maybe it's landing in the blue, but I should take it off the bounce. So this really just helps you find your range. And with a lot of us wanting to work on our offense and playing more aggressive, it pairs super, super well with our out-of-the-air speed-ups, right? So the main problem with not taking the ball out of the air is it gives our opponent too much margin. If Raz knows I'm not taking anything out of the air, he's just going to keep pushing me back, and instead of having a 7-foot kitchen, he's got, an extra couple feet of margin. He's got a 9-foot kitchen. He can play with all the margin in the world because he knows I'm not going to reach in there and punish him if he pops it up. On the flip side, if I'm hovering all over the kitchen, right, and I'm reaching in, I'm taking balls out of the air, Raz now has like a 5-foot kitchen. The biggest consequence of this is going to be if you're somebody who's reaching in, you're going to get so many more net errors out of your opponent. That's going to be the biggest outcome from this drill. If you're just putting on pressure and they know, okay, I have to dink it a little bit shorter, otherwise these guys are going to reach it, you're going to get so many more net errors from your opponent. Also, this pairs really well with what we're going to work on now, which is those rolls, those flicks, those out-of-the-air attacks. What we're going to do is Raz is going to be working on resetting. From my side, I'm going to be looking again to take whatever I can out of the air, and try to put a little bit of topspin on here. The goal here is really just generating the spin. Even if I get a super high ball, I'm not just going to smack it. I'm going to work on generating the spin. So I'm not hitting much faster than this. I'm working on getting whatever amount of topspin that I can. In a real game, yeah, I'll try and hit harder. I'll try and hit with more spin. But for purposes of this drill, it's somewhat cooperative. Now, a few things you might have noticed. Same idea. I want to make sure that I'm not getting overextended on these shots. Raz happens to be in the transition zone, but this is a shot that's super, super useful while we're all up at the kitchen. If Raz is up at the kitchen and I hit a slow roll shot like this, he's countering that next one right back at me, right? So even though he's back there, I want to make sure that I'm nice and compact with some of these rolls, right? Ready for that next shot. So I'm not overextending all the way to here, right? Same thing applies. I want to make sure that this paddle isn't going to the opposite side here on these topspin roll shots. So there's really 3 levels to this, and we'll try and give you guys individual tips, but I would say that there are actually 4 levels. First, when you first start out, you go flat attacks. Then, as you get good at that, you start to add a little bit of topspin. And then we start to add a little bit of wrist flicking up the ball. And then we start to add wrist flicking through the ball. So I would say that this is we start with a punch. We then go to, as we get better, we then go to a roll. And then we can go to a flick, essentially. So this depends on your level. I think we're all at a spot where we want to start working those rolls. I think some of us might be at that spot where we start to add what we call like a flick. And there is a little bit of a difference between a roll and a flick, but I'll come around and see what I see for you guys. All right? Yeah. So that's a really good question. In this drill, I'm not constantly here, right? I'm in my ready position, and then I'm looking to reach. But my ready position is not bent over here, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, you just want to make sure that as they're hitting, you're not overextended. I want to be in a good, comfortable, ready position, and then, okay, maybe if I need to reach for it, I go for it, right? But I'm not in ready position like this. I'm not. Generally, we don't have for the most part, we don't have time when we're doing that. So I am changing the position, but I'm not changing my grip, right? My grip stays the exact same. I'm holding the paddle in the exact same position, but what I'm doing is I'm closing the face so that I can brush up with some topspin. So normally my backhand might be like this, then I'm just rotating the wrist. I think in the setup, it is still pretty loose because we need to be able to as you start to brush up with the wrist, there's some tension there that which is just part of bringing the wrist upwards. But I would say the preparation is loose. Yeah, I think the less of the paddle you're holding, the more wrist action you can get. If I'm fully choked up, it's tough to get as much wrist action as if part of my hand is off of the paddle. Chris, I'd say one thing for you here while you're in the transition zone is he's pretty much aiming at your feet from this position. When I'm in transition zone, my ready position is pretty much here because if it goes past my shoulders, I know it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Was that up here?
So I think you were kind of in your normal ready position, both with your paddle and your body, right? I'm really focusing on being down with my body and my paddle in this from the midcourt. Nice, Lynn. Nice. All right, everybody, let's switch roles. Let's switch offense and defense here. So one thing on that forehand side is it seems like you're kind of coming at it with like a little bit of an open face. See if you can kind of come at it with that closed face right away. So here, let me show you the difference here. On the forehand side, I was seeing you're kind of rolling it here, right? And coming over it a bit. See if you can close that face up and then come through, right? I think it generally just generates, the way that you do it, you have to time it well, right? You have to time it right at the right portion. If you keep it closed, you don't have to time an additional thing, if that makes sense. Nice. I would say you're getting good spin now. Now try and do it with, try to get the same amount of pop with less motion. So right now you're going here and here, and if Lynn was up at the kitchen, you'd be eating the counter, right? So try and do the same thing, but like a little bit more explosive. Nice. Nice. So we had a bunch of questions on, a lot of us wanted to work on returns. I figure we might as well work on serves as well. So we'll start out talking about serves. What's the point of the serve? It's to gain an advantage, all right? Okay? If you're not, every shot in pickleball you're trying to get an advantage with. The serve is no different. And if you watch high-level pickleball now, there are still some players that aren't doing a ton with their serve. The majority of players are really going after the serve now. I used to do all this crazy stuff called the chainsaw. I invented a new way to serve, they banned it. I invented another new way to serve, they banned that too. Now I serve like a normal person, but I still think if you're making 100% of your serves, you're leaving something on the table. There's no shot that, in my opinion, you should make 100% of the time. I could play the rest of 2025 and not miss a shot. I would hit every single ball to the middle of the court, 8 feet over the net, and I would go the rest of the year without missing a ball, right? My stats would be unbelievable, but I also would never win a point, right? When I put it that simply, like, it makes sense. There's got to be some risk behind every shot. So if you're making 100% of your serves, I think you're not taking on enough risk. The number one objective with our serve is to push our opponents away from the kitchen. If I can push my opponents back, it's going to make my third shot a lot easier. And so at the beginning of the point, servers win about 38% of points. Once we get to the kitchen, it's a 50-50. So we're at a disadvantage. If we can push our opponent back and take the kitchen, we've completely neutralized the returner's advantage. That's our objective. So if we're making 100% of our serves, we want to miss some long. We want to push that ball deeper. Power, placement, spin, those things are all great. I love those things. They are all, depth is here, all those things are here. Depth is our number one objective, and it's not close when it comes to the serve. On returns, the main thing that we want to do is, let's see, Neil, would you mind demonstrating with me? So I'm going to have you serve a couple to me. As Neil's serving, eyes on me over here. Listen for Neil's serve, all right? Listen for his contact, and take a look at what I'm doing as Neil is serving. Okay. What'd I do? Yeah, I started, even before he was hitting, I had my butt touching the back fence here, and if I was playing a tournament on these courts, that's exactly how I would return. I'm starting way far behind the court, whatever this is. This is like, Jared, how much space is back here? 10 feet?
I think it's right at 9.
9 feet. I'm 9 feet behind the court, but I'm starting to get my momentum moving forward. That way, when I have my momentum moving forward, I don't need to take a big old swing to try and return, right? And also my momentum carries me in towards that kitchen. The majority of people I see return more like this. We start right behind the line. we're on our back foot, and then we have to change directions to get in. So working on the return, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take a step right before he hits. I'm going to continue to move, and I really wanna try and line up my paddle right with the ball and push through. Still not really much backswing here. So if I'm just demonstrating this, it is there. I'm not slicing, I'm not top spinning, I'm not worried about any spin, I'm more or less just pushing this ball. That's the forehand side. Same idea on the backhand side. Whether you're one-handed or two-handed, you're pretty much just pushing through this ball. A lot of people do like to slice that backhand return. That's fine. At a certain level, people will start to exploit the slice a little bit. I would say if you have somebody who's got a good drive and you give them backspin, what backspin does is allows me to actually generate more topspin as a result. Don't wipe spin off like a tennis ball. So like in tennis, if somebody gives you a slice, you can hit topspin back. It doesn't make that big of a difference, but the spin that's given to me continues when it hits this paddle. So if you give me slice, I can hit extra topspin, basically. With tennis players, or it's hard to say level dependent. I think it's more skill dependent. Players who have a good forehand drive are going to exploit it. There are pro pickleball players who don't exploit it because they don't have a great drive. There are 4.0 players that do exploit it because that's the one thing that they've got, right? Speed ups and resets. I intentionally left out resets. I think resets are kind of an almost obsolete part of pickleball. From the kitchen line, I'll clarify. From the kitchen line, resetting is like almost impossible. And even if you do it super, super well, the problem with resetting is if your opponent speeds the ball up at you and you're only softening it, you're no threat to them whatsoever. And it is such a difficult shot to take the proper amount of pace off and drop it right back into the kitchen. I think you should be always intending to counter. Pro pickleball players reset by accident at this point, right? We get so caught and we're still trying to swing, but we get caught before we swing and it happens to go in as a reset. So people are like, wow, look at that reset. What they don't know is it was a total accident. All right, we're almost never resetting on purpose from the kitchen line. Transition zone, yes. We don't want to be countering from the transition zone. That's where we're softening that ball up because we don't stand a chance in the hands battle from the transition zone. Thanks, dude. Thanks for filming and everything. I'm glad you were able to make it.
Yeah, thank you.
Jared just sent me your channel today. I'll check it out.
Really?
So